The brutal civil war that started in Yemen in 2014 has resulted in nearly about 1.2 million people getting internally displaced. So, what is life like for people inside Yemen who became refugees in their own homeland? People living in Al Rumaila refugee camp at Marib district in northern Yemen, they have been forced to move into this desolated space after the Saudi-led coalition carried out an intense bombing campaign to smoke out the Houthi rebels, which resulted in destroying all the houses. And people here see no possibility of returning to their normal life anytime soon. Life in the refugee camp is hard. The children are out of school and existence is hand to mouth. People living here say that they were living in the Harib for 15 years when the Houthi rebels entered and displaced them. They fled with their children and left all their belongings. They left their furnitures, clothes, everything. They barely escaped with their children. When they arrived here at Marib, they found the conditions very bad. This is totally humiliating according to the people. Ever since the civil war broke out in 2014, over 4 million people have been fled the country. A crippling blockade imposed by Saudi Arabia and its allies has pushed millions to the brink of starvation. The United Nations has described the situation in Yemen as world's worst humanitarian crisis, but little attention has been paid to over 1.2 million people who have been internally displaced due to the civil war. This refugee camp in Marib is just 120 kilometers from the rebel-held capital of Sana'a. Wikipedia, the modern day encyclopedia. Its presence and its use, it is hard to dismiss. We all refer to it at some point in our lives, even though we know it can be unreliable. It's an open source, which basically means anyone can add information, anyone can delete information. They can replace content with nonsense. They can replace a name with a slur. We have all either come across or heard of such malicious edits. But did you know that sometimes these edits are state-sponsored, aimed of promoting a certain point of view? We know a lot of states are capable of doing this, but Wikipedia has named only one: China. Chinese propagandists have been caught trying to peddle misinformation through Wikipedia. The funny part is that Wikipedia is not even available in China. Beijing has blocked the site through its Great Firewall, as its keyboard warriors manipulate Wikipedia pages for the rest of the world to consume. Last month, Wikimedia Foundation, the parent company of Wikipedia, banned at least 7 Chinese editors, people who added content. It also removed administrative powers of at least 12 others. All of these people were associated with a group called Wikimedians of mainland China. Now Wikipedia suspects this group is run by the Chinese government. What is this group doing? They are skewing Wikipedia's content towards a Chinese point of view, editing information that was critical of China, censoring it in accordance with government's requirements, replacing it with reports from the Chinese state media. Now this is a very systematic misinformation campaign. It began during 2019 Hong Kong protest. Reports describing China's brutal crackdown were edited. They were replaced with misleading references. Wikipedia editors from Hong Kong described the crackdown as terror. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said it will be time very soon that Australia will be able to open those international borders again, and that will enable Australians who are fully vaccinated and Australians and the residents of Australia who are overseas and those who are fully vaccinated be able to travel again. This is happening as Australia move into 80% vaccination rate. They already got the technology and other things in place that will support those states being able to enable its residents and citizens to leave the country and return back. Now Australia is opened its borders almost 600 days after COVID-induced lockdown. This sparked emotional scenes at Sydney Airport as loved ones reunited this week. Many were greeted by tearful friends and relatives they had not seen for several months. Travelers were also welcomed by airline staff holding banners. On March 20 last year, Australia imposed the world's toughest border restrictions. In response to the coronavirus, families were split across continents as thousands of citizens were stranded overseas. These conditions have now been dropped for country's two cities, Sydney and Melbourne. Now the historic climate talks involving more than 120 world leaders are underway in Glasgow. The Glasgow conference comes just days after the historic G20 summit in Rome, where leaders from the 20 most powerful economies congregated to discuss some of the raging global issues like global health and economy. The COP26 is being touted as humanity's last chance to achieve the goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. In his opening remarks, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson urged the world leaders not to run down the doomsday clock. He added that the longer we fail to act, the worse it gets and the higher the price. UN Chief Antonio Guterres called for decarbonization and to phase out coal. In his opening remarks, which he has said that the world leaders need maximum ambition to make the summit a success. The sternest warning of all came from the celebrated naturalist David Attenborough. He told leaders at the summit that the stability that we all depend on is breaking. Attenborough added that the answer to a climate crisis needed to be equitable, saying that those who have done the least to cause this problem are being hit the hardest. Barbados Prime Minister pledged the world leaders to take action. She said that limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is essential for the existence of island nations like Barbados, and reaching 2 degrees Celsius would be a death sentence for all of them. Pressure is now on governments to redouble their emissions cutting commitments to bring them in line with Paris COP26. All the participants are going to review the progress they made on the 2015 Paris Climate Deal. Signatories had agreed to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. They hope to achieve this by limiting the use of fossil fuels. A group of leaders will sign the Climate Change Conference first major deal, where they will pledge to stop deforestation by 2030. North Korea is starving. Kim Jong-un says situation is grim. This is the solution he is offering to his citizens. Black swans. Pyongyang has unleashed a new propaganda. The state mouthpiece claims black swans are delicious. They have medicinal value and they will improve people's lives. Pyongyang says a new center has been opened to rear black swans. This is a cruel joke on North Koreans. Millions of them are going hungry. How will some black swans fill their stomachs? Pyongyang knows this. North Korea has been perpetually struggling with chronic food shortages. It cannot get the food, so it is dishing out old propaganda. The Kim regime has a history of promoting exotic meats as solutions for food shortages. In 1990s, North Korea suffered a devastating famine. Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un, came up with a response. He promoted rabbit and ostrich meat. Within months, Kim Jong-il was exposed. At least 50,000 North Koreans died due to famine. Some say the death toll was high as 3 million. A similar crisis is now looming over North Korea. The United Nations says vulnerable children and elderly could starve. Kim Jong-un has said the country to eat less till 2025. The North Korean dictator is getting large shipments from China. But if we take past as proof, any humanitarian aid is unlikely to reach the starving people as Kim continues to lead a lavish life. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk says he is willing to sell Tesla stock if the United Nations official who said that just 2% of the entrepreneur's income would help solving world hunger. In a tweet on Sunday, October 31st, Musk said if WFP can describe on this Twitter thread exactly how $6 billion will solve world hunger, I will sell Tesla stock right now and do it. The Tesla and SpaceX CEO added, however, that the World Food Program must publicly disclose how they are utilizing his funds. He added, but it must be an open source accounting so the public sees precisely how the money is spent. Musk's tweet comes in response to a comment made by David Beasley, the executive director of United Nations WFP, urging billionaires to help. In an interview to CNN, David Beasley had said, the governments are tapped out. This is why and this is when the billionaires need to step up now on a one-time basis. Beasley added $6 billion to help 42 million people that are literally going to die if we don't reach them. It's not complicated. Beasley continued, this is just heartbreaking. I'm not asking them to do this every day, every week, every year. We have a one-time crisis, a perfect storm on conflict, climate change and COVID. The WFP director's interview followed a tweet he wrote earlier this month, specially calling on Musk and Amazon's co-founder Jeff Bezos, whose net worths are $311 billion and $199 billion respectively, to aid world hunger issues. Since Beasley's initial tweet, Musk's net worth has grown to more than $300 billion. The $6 billion Beasley requested would be approximately 2% of Musk's income, and less than $9.3 billion his worth increased on October 29th alone. India's Covaxin jab has been approved by World Health Organization for emergency use. This means that Covaxin now joins the 7 vaccines approved by WHO. The current list of vaccines approved by UN health body include Covaxin, Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Covishield, Johnson & Johnson, Sinopharm and Sinovac. WHO has said that Covaxin meets its standards for protection against COVID-19. It also added that the benefit of vaccine far outweigh the risk. The vaccine was also reviewed by the WHO Strategic Advisory Group of Experts on Immunization. It has recommended the use of this vaccine in 2 doses with the dose interval of 4 weeks in all age groups of 18 years and above. But the UN health body says that the available data on vaccination of pregnant women with Covaxin are insufficient to assess the vaccine safety or efficacy in pregnancy. Earlier, WHO was in process of evaluating Covaxin's clinical trial data for emergency use listing. The WHO had asked biotech for more data on Covaxin. India has also raised the issue of Covaxin approval at the G20 summit. Bharat Biotech has said that the emergency use of Covaxin will expedite global access and availability of vaccine worldwide. Dr. Krishna Ella, Chairman and Managing Director of Bharat Biotech, says that today Covaxin got approval from WHO. It is a momentous occasion for Indian innovation, entrepreneurship, Indian startups, and Indian science. WHO's emergency use listing for Covaxin facilitate countries to expedite their regulatory approval process. It also allows procurement by UNICEF and Covaxin facility for distribution to countries in need. Covaxin has demonstrated 77.8% effectiveness against COVID-19 and 65.2% protection against the Delta variant. India has administered more than 121 million doses of Covaxin. This means that over 59 million people in India have received the jab. The other countries that have approved Covaxin include Australia, Mauritius, Oman, Philippines, Nepal, Mexico, Iran, Sri Lanka, Greece, and Zimbabwe. A state of emergency has been declared in Ethiopia. Communications, transport, public gathering have all been suspended. Local administrations are being disbanded. Military leaders are being installed in their place. Firearm licenses are being issued to civilians. Homes and businesses of suspects are being raided. Any citizen could be detained without a warrant now. Any citizen above 18 can be called to fight. Why? Because rebel forces have declared war on the government. Armed fighters from the Tigray region are marching towards the country's capital. They are coming with one aim: topple the government of Abiy Ahmed. His removal, rebels say, is now a foregone conclusion. But the Prime Minister is unreluctant. He promises to put up a fight. He says, bury the enemy with our blood. He is 2019 Nobel Prize winner. Unfortunately, his words have done little to deter his enemies. The president of Tigray People's Federation Front says his forces will destroy the government. So far, the capital has been relatively calm, but the residents are worried about what lies ahead. They fear Addis Ababa could meet the fate of other Ethiopian cities. People say some insurgents have entered the capital. We need to identify them. Otherwise, no doubt what happened in Desi will happen in Dibre, Derhan and Addis Ababa. The rebels may or may not win over the capital, but the lives of its 6 million residents will get upended anyways. They will have to live under emergency laws for 6 months. During this period, citizens fit for military services will be conscripted. Anyone suspected of supporting the rebels will be arrested. Homes and businesses of suspects could be arbitrarily searched, and anyone who opposes these rules could face at least 10 years in jail. The government says these measures are necessary because the rebels' offensive is the most decisive yet.